Welcome back to the channel, everyone. I thought that the last video was going to be the last video in this series, but apparently this boat had some different plans for me. I think it was actually getting a little upset that I was going to be about what I would have called done with the project. Got the interior all finished up, and took it out on the water yesterday with my daughter and my mom. And we're just cruising around the bay on our way to pick up some pizza on Coronado. And yeah, I heard this awful grinding noise and everything came to a stop. And yeah, I was a bit confused at the time. I didn't know what to do. I fished around trying to see what was wrong and couldn't figure it out at that point. All I knew is that we were dead in the water and we were right in the middle of the bay. And thankfully it was a nice day, and even more thankfully some wonderful people came by in a nice little Cobalt, and they happened to be going right back to the dock where we had launched from, and they were nice enough to give us a tow. So I gotta give a big thanks to them, and you know, really that's what you love to see when you're out on the water is if anybody needs help, you always want to give them a hand, because that can make for a really long day stuck out in the middle of the water, or you know, could be a really expensive tow from Vessel Assist as well. So they were great. They towed us right back. I mean, they were literally going to the same dock, and then I was able to just use some ropes and pull the boat over the trailer and get it out of the water, no problem. But I discovered one problem, and let me show it to you real quick. Alright, so it's going to be kind of hard to see. I'm going to get my light here. If you look down behind the engine, you see that shaft that's running in between. There's kind of that big round housing, and then there's a kind of a rusty drive shaft. That's actually the spline shaft that goes into the outdrive. Well, just forward of that, towards the bottom of the screen, I guess, that housing that it goes into, that is the engine coupler. And when I got home and started the engine up, I discovered that that coupler is spinning with the engine, but the shaft is not. Which means we've stripped out the splines internally on that guy. So yeah, now we've got a bit of a job on our hands, because I'm gonna have to start by pulling off the drive, and then most likely we're gonna be pulling the engine out of this thing to get access to change out that coupler. So yeah, not exactly what I wanted to do. I'm not quite sure exactly why that coupler went out. You know, it could just be from old age. You know, if it's the original part, I don't know if it's the original part. Boat's a 1986, so it's had plenty of years to get worn on. I know if the engine's out of alignment with the gimbal bearing there, the shaft will work on those splines and wear the splines out. So that could be a cause. I know the engine's been out of this boat before. I've got paperwork for a rebuilt motor being put into it a few years back. So, you know, it's certainly possible that they may not have properly aligned the motor when they put it back in. The other thing that I'm kind of worried about is that something could have gone south in the outdrive and jammed up, and when it locked up, the engine wanted to keep on turning, so it just stripped the splines out, because that was the weakest link in the chain. I've done a little messing around. I can put the drive into forward and reverse, and the prop locks into gear just like it should. However, I'm not able to turn anything, you know, turn the prop when it's in gear, which normally is how you want it to be. But of course, with those splines all stripped out, in theory I should be able to turn the whole outdrive unit and turn that shaft from the prop, but who knows? I mean, there may just be enough drag that I can't turn it by hand. I haven't tried it very hard, but I'm going to start by getting the stern drive off of there and see if, maybe one of the U-joints went out and locked it up, or, could be worse. Don't know until we get in there. So since the drive's going to have to come off no matter what, that's where I'm going to start, and we'll find out the extent of the damage. Oh yeah, and then you can see behind me, just to add insult to injury, yesterday as we were loading it up on the dock, yeah, my nice little lift support for the engine cover gave way and ripped off, so gonna have to make a new bracket for that, because day wasn't bad enough. Just had to give me that nice little extra kick. Anyway, I'm gonna hop out of the boat here and start working on getting that drive taken off. Alright, well, I think we may have found one of our other issues here, and maybe the cause of our tragedy yesterday. So I just went ahead and put a breaker bar on the prop nut here, and I put the drive in gear, and I'm just working my way around, and I can feel the gears, and then come to a spot and it stops. So I don't know if it might be we lost one of the U-joints up in there, and as it comes around it's catching and grabbing on stuff, or worse, it could be the gears inside the gearbox. So I'm gonna go ahead and pop that top cap off of there and take a look inside and see what there is to see. Alright, so I took the top cap off here, and it's hard to see. See if I can get some light in there. See, it's still full of oil, which is a good sign, and I was able to rotate around and look. You can see the gear back there. It's coming off the input shaft, and didn't find any missing teeth on that one, but yeah, it's still jamming up, and I'm not sure exactly. Looks like it's about once a rotation on that input shaft, so that would kind of lean towards, hey, maybe the U-joint up front has let go and is jamming in the housing, which would actually be a simpler repair than a lot of things. So kind of crossing my fingers that's what it is, but at least got some explanation of why that engine coupler let go is this drive just suddenly stopped, and the engine wanted to keep going, so it did. So I'm gonna put that cap back on there just to keep dirt and stuff out of there since I'm working outside, and I'm gonna get going on pulling this drive off. Now that we've got everything apart, I started doing some inspecting, and just want to show a few things here. First, this guy's sticking out. That's actually the shifter cable, and it actually looks like it's probably darn near brand new. I mean, everything looks really clean, well greased. I really wasn't sure how things were gonna look once I opened this up, just because I kind of bought this boat as somewhat of an unknown. The guy that I bought it from was not really a boat person. He had definitely never done any maintenance on it, though he'd only owned it for a couple of years. But he had a lot of receipts for work that was done. Rebuilt motor got put in, and I think it was 2012. It's 2020 now. But I don't think this boat's really seen very much time. Now, my big question was the stern drive. Obviously, it was not replaced at that time, and I had no idea what the history was, and you know, it's always so hard to tell, so I just kind of assumed it had been neglected. But really, it's looking like, you know, there's some new stuff in here, and things are looking pretty clean. In fact, I expected the gimbal bearing down there to be rusted up and nasty and need replacing, and I reached down there and spun it, and it actually feels really good, and it's clean. I don't see any signs of water's gotten in through the boot there. That was one of the things I was worried about. I was actually planning on replacing that boot. I still will, just because we're already this deep. Might as well do it. I'll probably go ahead and replace the gimbal bearing, just because, you know, it's a lot of work when you're this deep into it. You know, you might as well. It's not that expensive. Now, looking down inside, I'm gonna try and shine my flashlight in here. See if we can see. If you look way down in there, you see the next hole past the gimbal bearing. Let's see if this will focus. There should be splines back in there. That's the engine coupler, and it is just ground smooth. There is nothing left of those splines in there. So that fully explains our loss of drive yesterday. So, and I think I've found our reason. So let's walk over here. I actually got a stand set up here. Rigged up a stand for the drive on my engine hoist here using some scrap aluminum bar I had. Now, first thing, I looked down in here and found our problem pretty much right away. Let's see if I can get this thing to focus. There we go. There's a tooth missing. Man, this camera really does not want to focus. Let me try this again. There you go. So you can see one tooth down in there broken off. And the reason it was stopping intermittently is that tooth right there. That was just floating around in there, and looks like what happened, it broke off, went floating around in the oil, and as soon as it came around and jammed up the gears, it just locked the drive solid, and that's when we stripped out that coupler. Thankfully, looking down in there, you know, it doesn't look like it's really chewed up a whole lot. It looks like it probably just broke off and lodged pretty much right away. And you know, unlike when that happens in my Jeep over there, or one of the other 4xs I'm used to working on, since we just got a propeller, it just stops everything cold. You know, in the Jeeps we tend to, you know, we break ring and pinion gears and put some throttle to it, and we end up stripping a bunch of gears off and pouring a bunch of ground up metal through all of everything. But this one looks like it's pretty straightforward. I really don't know much about replacing that gear. I'm not sure if that's part of the main shaft or not, so I'm gonna have to do a little research on that and decide if I want to just get another upper gear case, or if I want to venture into just trying to repair that gear. And surprisingly, you know, I was thinking, oh, maybe it was the U-joints that went. Well, I think the dirtiest part of the U-joint is where I sat it down on the ground. So I get the feeling that when that shop did the motor, they went through and they cleaned up everything and really did all the stuff that you should do, that's easy to do while it's out, because I mean, this stuff looks really clean. So I'm probably gonna pump a little grease into these guys and probably just leave them be, because, you know, really they feel tight. Everything actually looks really fresh, so it actually seems like this thing is better maintained than I thought, though obviously we're having a little problem. But I'm guessing that gear is not a normal maintenance item, so that's probably 30 years old, and You know, at some point somebody probably hit bottom with the prop and shock loaded everything, and you know, this is probably damage that's been there for many years and just finally let go. So that's it for right now, and I'll start figuring out what I'm going to do with it.